Hello everyone, going short here on NASDAQ on the 3-minute chart. So price has been driven up into a premium in the opening range. It's sitting above the midnight open, the 8:30 open, and the 9:30 open. It failed to reach the midpoint of this daily wick that's annotated in red. So seeing that sensitivity, I'm looking to see if price can work its way lower. Additionally, we've just entered the 1050 to 1110 macro. So here I'm looking at that bearish order block from the opening price to the low of the candlestick, which I've annotated here. And I'm using that for my entry. You can see the sensitivity there at the midpoint. I've placed my stop above the high of the order block, and I'm looking to target just above the midpoint or the consequent encroachment of that inefficiency at the bottom. And right away, we're seeing some good displacement. I have my eye on that swing low that's formed, and I'd like to see speed below that. And that's what we're seeing here. And I've trailed my stop just above the mean threshold of the order block, as you can see there. Now I'm observing this wick, and I've graded the quadrants of the wick. We have the upper quadrant, the consequent encroachment, and then the lower quadrant. And the reason I've picked this particular wick is because it's the most prominent one in that price range. So here, if price is bearish, I don't want to see it have a hard time cutting through the quadrants of the wick. It should be able to cut through each level like hot knife through butter. And I like how it didn't spend too much time in the order block that we used for entry. That's exactly what we want to see. It wicked into the midpoint of that discount wick and then broke lower. That is a sign of weakness. So seeing that, I'm trailing my stop a bit further, removing some risk just above the opening price of the order block. Now I'm observing how price behaves as it wicks into the consequent encroachment of the graded wick. It's also in close proximity to that swing low. So I would want to see it cut through the midpoint of the wick and that swing low with speed and displacement if it's truly bearish. It hasn't quite reached the midpoint of the wick yet. There it is. Now I'm observing if it can close beneath the midpoint of the wick and that swing low. And I'm also trailing my stop to break even now, just because I wouldn't want to see price trade all the way back up to that order block. It wouldn't make sense for it to do that if it's truly bearish and weak. You can see the sensitivity as it gets below that swing low and the midpoint. I wanted to see speed through the swing low and not have a hard time getting through that level. So I'm just watching to see where it closes. Ideally, it should close beneath the midpoint of the wick, but I certainly did not want to see it struggle to displace past that swing low. That up close candle with that small body is a bearish order block as well. So I'm seeing if it offers any sensitivity at its discount wick. So as you can see, price was just able to reach the low of that last up close candle, and it was able to get some displacement lower. So here I'm observing if that's enough for it to now work into the lower half of that annotated wick. As you can see, that candlestick closed in the upper half of the wick above the midpoint. So this next candle, I would like to see it work through that midpoint of the wick and displace past the lower quadrant as well. And there it's able to get below the previous candlestick's low and work into the lower quadrant of the annotated wick, but it hasn't been able to displace through it. So I'm trailing my stop just a little bit more in profit above the last up close candle's closing price. And again, I'm just observing where this candlestick closes. Ideally, you want to see it close in the lower half if it's truly weak, especially because it was able to get below that minor sell side swing low. We don't want this to be a scenario where it's trapping sellers on the breakout, and this was simply a stop run before moving higher. So here we can see it getting beneath that lower quadrant, fails to reach that wick's low. So I'm just observing that as well. And as this candlestick comes to a close, I'm just observing if it can get beneath the midpoint on a closing basis. As you can see, it's really struggling to spend time in the lower half as it returns above the midpoint of the wick. However, my stop is trailed in profit just below break even. I'm not too worried if it runs against me here. Alright, so it closes just beneath the midpoint of the wick. Now this very next candle, I would want to see it really displace lower beneath the last candlestick's low if it's going to be bearish. It spent enough time in the range of the upper half of that annotated wick that we had previously. Also on the top right, you can see I'm monitoring the dollar index there. I wanted to see if it could show strength, but the dollar is weak while I'm looking for lower prices on NASDAQ. So that is a misalignment, which I don't want to see. Here I'm going for a more low-hanging objective, trailing my take profit target just beneath the low of the wick that was annotated previously, especially seeing the weakness in dollar. And as we have this large retracement, which I definitely do not want to see, I'm observing if that last up close candle, if that discount wick can hold price lower. And I have my stop just above that candlestick's closing price. So I'm very happy with how I've managed my position here. Perhaps my target was a little too ambitious for what price had to offer, but I was able to manage my risk well if it turns against me here. It's permitted to work up to the opening price of that last up close candle. However, I want to see sensitivity at that discount wick. And as it's operating in that range at the moment, I don't like that. I would have liked to have seen it work into the midpoint of the wick and stay in its lower half and then have a quick reaction lower if it was truly bearish. But as you can see, I've gotten stopped out there just beneath break even. Didn't reach my target that I had in mind. I was slightly too ambitious for what price had to offer today for the setup. But once again, I'm happy with how I managed the position and how I managed my risk. I hope this was helpful and you enjoyed the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.